Welcome everybody. As you can see, candidates for senior Actually, hello, everybody is looking at us on social media. We are welcome everybody. Candidates here. Here, ma'am. Yes, come with the number. Punam. Welcome everybody. Thank you for being here. We are going to start first seeing our candidates. Punam, do you want to do the random?
Okay.
Please, each of you take a number, and we're going to see it in order.
Okay, so we will be number 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
What number should we? 3. 3. 5. It's totally right. 3.
Look at the draw.
4.
Careful, please.
Careful. Now, number 2. And where we oh.
Yes.
And then return the numbers. We're going to do random things.
Take numbers.
Then go here, the first seat here. This seat here. Be careful. Your number.
No, that's the
Sorry. 8. You can sit here because we're waiting for 2 more candidates that
We have 800 candidates.
yeah, we're going to put here. Cap. He's got the cap and wait. Where is Carolyn Dancy? Okay, here now you have the number.
Milagros, 1 minute to 2.
Thank you. Thank you everybody for being here. We wanted, this is the Central Hollywood Neighborhood Council. We're part of District 4. My name is Milagros Lizarraga. I am president of Central Hollywood Neighborhood Council and co-chair of the Outreach Committee, Mr. Punam Gohel. He is secretary of Central Hollywood Neighborhood Council, co-chair of the Outreach Committee, Irma Garrade, vice president of Central Hollywood Neighborhood Council, Gail Murphy, our board director of Central Hollywood Neighborhood Council, and our moderator of tonight. And we want to thank Jane. He is the president of this beautiful museum, who is opening the doors for us to be here today. Thank you, Jane.
Well, thank you. I'd like to welcome all of you, the constituents, as well as the candidates, to the Hollywood Fire Museum and Fallen Firefighters Memorial, which is located out front. I'm the president of the Los Angeles Fire Department Historical Society. I'm retired from the fire department after 40 years of service, and I've worked here at the museum since it opened in 2001. We also have a second museum, our Harbor Museum down in San Pedro, a little smaller, more marine themed than this one, but a very nice museum. And we're restoring the longest serving piece of apparatus that the Los Angeles Fire Department had. It's old fireboat 2, Ralph J. Scott, was commissioned in 1925 and served for the next 78 years, retiring in 2003. So again, I'd like to welcome you here. You are in Council District 4, kind of landlocked by CD13, but looking forward to working with you. We were successful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jim. And just to let you know, we are broadcasting this to social media. Let's say hello to the camera. We're going to be turning around. And we have also another camera here. So we're going to forward each of you the link of the forum today. Tonight, Gail, I'm going to give the microphone to you. You are in charge.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank you all for coming tonight. My name is Gail Murphy. I will be your moderator this evening. I think the way we'll start off this forum is I will ask each candidate to introduce themselves. You have 2 minutes each maximum on this introduction, and Irma will give you the time. So as I'm left-handed, let's start at that end of the table.
Thank you. My name is Michael Schaefer. You can remember me as Be Safer with Schaefer because we all want a safer community. I have my modest little sign in green and black over there. I call that my brochure. It's bigger than any of my opponents. I advertise myself as the best educated, most experienced candidate. I say that because I have a doctorate in law from Georgetown. I have a business degree from Cal Berkeley. I went to Notre Dame for a while, and I studied tax law at USC and the stock market at UCLA. I have a son here who is one of the principals in the Coachella Music Festival. He's been with AEG for 9 years. And I'm real excited at 43 he's getting married in a couple of weeks. My most experience, I used to be a city prosecutor. I was twice elected city councilman of the San Diego government. That was 50 years ago. In 1965, I was doing just what I'm doing now. I'm knocking on doors, asking you to elect me to the city council. So I've gone back to my humble beginnings, and I'm ready for prime time, which is the city of LA. I ran against Mr. LaBlanche in 2001 when he first ran, and he won and I lost. So I've been waiting for the grand old man to retire, which has finally happened, and he has really big shoes to fill. I've been famous in the election law field. David Brew is the first person on the ballot. His name starts with R. How did that happen? It used to be it was ABC, it was the alphabet. Well, I went to court in the 1970s and killed the alphabet and convinced the courts that it was a denial of equal protection of the law if you automatically make Aaron Aardvark the first candidate. So they required them to draw names out of the hat, and then finally the election law was changed to require random outreach. I'm excited about this, and I want to thank you for inviting us all.
Thank you.
Going to begin? Yes.
Absolutely.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tomas O'Grady. Justine and I are raising our 4 children in Los Feliz. I was reared on a farm in Ireland, so no stranger to hard work. I understand the value of being resourceful. And throwing money at a problem just isn't an option. I'll be honest with you, I'm dissatisfied with this city. I'm dissatisfied where it's going. And I would really like to change course. I think of my 4 children, and I think what they will inherit. Hollywood development is out of control. It is now affecting us in Los Feliz. A complete lack of sustainability measures in regard to our city. Germany now has more solar power, more than 50% of its power comes from solar. Los Angeles is barely treading water. I've dedicated myself to unpaid public service for the last 7 years, because 22 years ago, I fell in love in America and with America. Through our nonprofit Enrich LA, the school garden nonprofit, we built over 70 school gardens on a shoestring. And we've worked with the mother of all bureaucracies, the LAUSD, to transform King Middle School into an academic powerhouse. I'm trying to bring that same can-do attitude to City Hall. My values are the ones that my grandfather taught me. Care for the land, care for your neighbor, save for a rainy day, and always keep your word. Thank you.
Good.
Good evening. First of all, thank you very much for taking the time out of your, I'm sure your very busy lives to come and hear us speak and sell you on who's going to be your best candidate to represent you in this district. My name is Sheila Irani, and I served for 2 years as the Director of Special Projects for Councilman Tom LaBonge. And that's after having a very long and illustrious career as an entrepreneur, for 20 years as a transportation planner, implementer, and marketer throughout this nation, serving government agencies from DC to Los Angeles. What I would do is do transportation demand management. So I would provide marketing incentives to get people to carpool, vanpool, use bus and rail, bike and telework to work. So that's one thing that I love. I've also been a community activist in the sense that I've worked with Children's Hospital. I've been the chairperson of the Champion Fund, where we help high-risk and homeless youth, teenage pregnancy, substance abuse, people on the streets. I've also formed Women in Words, a group that helps foster children as well as battered women throughout Los Angeles County. I've also been the HOA president for Lake Hollywood Estates, where I've lived now for almost 20 years, and the outreach chair for Hollywood United Neighborhood Council. So I know the value of neighborhood council and what you bring to the city council. As all these things, I think that the thing that I'd like you to remember is that I believe in service. I'm doing this for the love of my city. I have a passion for service. I have a passion for the city. I was born and raised in the hills, still live there, and I'd love to have the opportunity to serve you. I see myself as a strong, smart, successful woman, and I think we need one of those in City Hall. Thank you very much.
Good evening, my name is David Rue. My mother first immigrated to this country right after I was born. She came not just for a better life for her children, but a better life for herself. She wanted to come to a place that valued equality, fairness, hard work, and more importantly, the opportunity to choose your own destiny. So growing up, my mother and my grandmother were the two most influential people in my life. But life was difficult. The 6 of us lived in a 2-bedroom, 700 square foot apartment, and I can't remember a time when my mom and dad weren't working 2 or 3 jobs. But I got to go to the best public schools. I went to John Burroughs Junior High in the heart of Hancock Park. I went to Francisco Bravo Medical Magnet in East LA, and then to UCLA. Yes, I got some scholarships to go to UCLA, but if it wasn't, again, for the Cal Grants, the staff loans, and the programs, I would not have been able to go to UCLA and be where I am today. Which is why, when I graduated from UCLA, I wanted to give back. And for the first 3 years, I worked for local advocacy nonprofits, working on dispute resolution mediation and after the LA riots, civics education and engagement, and coalition building. It was through that work that I got to meet my future boss and mentor, Supervisor Yvonne Bradley Burke. I was primarily our social services deputy, also working on budgets and transportation, but more importantly, this is where I learned how government works and that government can work. When she retired, I went back to my nonprofit service roots, and for the past 6 years, I've been working for the 2nd largest mental health hospital, nonprofit mental health hospital in LA County. The largest mental health hospital is our jail system. We serve the most underserved communities, which brings us to today. I am running to change the conversation at City Hall, but that doesn't start till I first listen to you. And City Hall is where the rubber meets the road, more than the President of the United States or a Congress member or council member affects your life the most, and this is where I want to serve. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Jay Bieber. I'm the 2nd Vice President of the Sherman Oaks Neighborhood Council, and also I'm the person who got rid of the red light cameras here in Los Angeles. Thank you.
And I'm also leading the reform of the city's abusive parking enforcement division, and I'm working with the mayor on that. I got the entire state of California to change how long the yellow light time needs to be, make it a little bit longer so the intersections are safer, and also so they can run the red light camera scan as easily as they happen. In my neighborhood, we are dealing with a decades-long water runoff problem, and finally, once I got involved in that, brought a whole bunch of different departments out to the middle of the road and said we're going to have to fix this. We now have something on the drawing board after decades and decades and decades. I stopped a really bad bill from the state that would have taken away our right to a trial for certain traffic offenses, and we were able to get the person who put that bill in to pull that bill within 4 weeks. So I'm very effective in getting things done, and I've done all these things not as a staff member or as an elected official, but just as a community advocate. There's a lot of problems in this city. We all recognize them, whether it's development, whether it's fixing the streets, whether it's traffic problems. We need new solutions, and we need to change things in the city. You have to ask yourself this question. Is that major change going to come from somebody who is on the inside, somebody who has worked in city government, not that they're bad people because they've done that, but because they have that mentality, the way things are, and the way things always have to be? Or is it going to be somebody who's done something from the outside, but knows how to work on the inside and get things done? If you're looking for somebody to change things for this city, this council district, I am your candidate. I'm somebody who doesn't take no for an empty buck. And I will fight that way for you in the same way that I fought for all these other things that I've accomplished. Thank
you.
Wow, it's luxury. We're used to 30-second intros. My name is Wally Knott. Some of you may recognize the name because I represented most of this district when I was in the state legislature for a while and on the community college board for 7 years. I've worked on a host of issues at the state level and cooperated with Mayor Reardon and former Chief of Police Bernie Parks on a host of legislation that was needed by Los Angeles, including the historic limitation on handgun purchases, which everybody told me could never happen, but we did. Now I'm running for LA City Council. I have a sneaking suspicion some of you have been receiving campaign mail from some of us. And as a result of that, you may know my positions on development. But I wanted in the introduction to focus on that, just to be absolutely certain that you heard words directly from me as to what I think. We're at a meeting at the junction of Cahuenga and Cole, just a couple blocks south of Sunset and Hollywood Boulevard. We're at the epicenter of development in this community, and your community is one of the communities that is directly, immediately impacted by everything that is going on those boulevards. You know better than I do the truth of what I've been saying in my campaign literature, and it's very simple. Supposedly we have community plans that govern development. They don't. Supposedly we have zoning laws that govern development. They don't. What governs development in Los Angeles? It's very simple. We have 15 members of city council and a mayor. And they make every single development decision simply based on their whims. They have the unlimited ability through exemptions and variances to change everything in every plan. Frankly, my colleagues are wonderful people who are running for this office, but they all will tell you a simple thing. They can be trusted to make the very finest decisions possible. And I'm saying we need to change the system.
Thank you.
I'm going to describe how
He had to leave. He's coming back.
Do you want to, did you say that they were going to pick a number?
No, right now it's the
Q&A.
questions for everybody.
Okay, we're going to get to the really good part now, the Q&A. You have
1 minute.
one minute to scratch the surface, pretty much. And I think I'll start on this side with Wally.
He had to leave, but I don't know if he's coming back. I couldn't. Yes, please.
Yeah.
I would assume it's something those are your. I know.
We should have said David.
Your friend,
Because if you can say that Caroline is going to come a little bit late and Rose.
okay,
Okay, so we're gonna, we'll start here. You have 2 minutes and then we'll just go.
1
down.
minute. No, 1 minute.
1 minute, sorry. Time after time, city leaders and developers keep telling us, don't worry about the traffic in Los Angeles because we Los Angelinos will use public transportation and we will ride bikes. If you disagree with this, what is your solution?
20 minutes.
Let me start out experimenting. It's a small, rather echoey room. Let me try it without the mic. Is anyone having difficulty hearing me?
What about your camera, Jorge? No, he needs the mic for the camera.
The mic?
Yeah, you have 1 minute, please.
No, wait, when it start all over.
Yeah.
Start all over. Yeah.
It's a great question. Transit-oriented development is oversold. We are told that by having subways put into our communities and by allowing enormous densities in the immediate vicinity of those subways, we will solve all our traffic problems. It's bunk. Subways are useful. Development is useful, but overselling ourselves on the usefulness of them is senseless. Some of the candidates in this race, I actually don't think folks here are what I would call wild advocates of subway development. Well, those darn things cost billions of dollars, our dollars. What I advocate is a much more sophisticated use of buses. The single greatest transit problem in Los Angeles today is that professionals are not using public transit. And the way to get professionals to use public transit is to lure folks there by providing such a spectacularly good service that professionals want to be on high-level, high-tech buses going to and from work.
127.
So thanks for this question. For those of you who may listen to talk radio, I was actually on the air this afternoon talking about this very subject, which is bicyclists and taking away car lanes and things of that nature. I am not in favor of this fantasy that if we somehow make it really miserable to drive a car, then people won't drive a car. And unfortunately, that's the attitude that a lot of people have in the city. I think that, as Wally said, I think this transit-oriented development also is something of a fantasy in the sense that if we just build a whole bunch of stuff on these transit lines, nobody will have a car, nobody will drive. It's just not gonna happen, and I just think it's ridiculous, quite frankly. Here's a couple of solutions that I think we need to do. We do need to look at where people are commuting from every day and do some additional transit in those areas. But this is something that I mentioned in another debate and something we really need to seriously think about. We're in the 21st century. Why do people go into an office and sit and work there at a computer or on the phone all day long, have to drive somewhere and go and work in an office? We need to encourage more work from home. This will alleviate a whole lot of traffic problems. Already? Wow. We can talk more about it later, but that's an important part of this transit solution.
I believe in transit-oriented development. However, that word has been abused. You're right, just because you build a couple of bike racks isn't going to make people sell their cars and start using bicycles. To effectuate, to work on traffic, it's going to be a more global issue. We can talk about this for hours, but it's going to have to be a multiple prong approach. It's going to have to be increasing buses, but not just buses. We do need subway. We need light rail. We need everything. We also need to focus on the first and the last mile. It's about getting people to the subway, to the light rail stations. When they get there, it's going from your house to the station, where you park your car, not enough parking. Maybe we have a system where we have bike rentals, smart car rentals, have a universal card system where you can actually use Uber or taxi systems. make it as convenient as possible, and integrate all our different sectors, all our different transportation modes together to help ease, and even then, it's still gonna be a lot of traffic congestion. But we need to explore all models, and we need to make sure that we have proper development and make sure that all these loopholes about using bicycle racks and transit oriented.
As I said, my background is in transportation, so telework is something that's been around for 30 years. Unfortunately, we have managers that are against it. It's not the employees who don't like it, it's the management. Even within the city of Los Angeles, they don't encourage it. So it is something that we need to work on, and I think as the city, we need to encourage that. There's a lot of other things that we need to work on. The first mile and the last mile problem, that's a very big one, especially for those of us who live in the hills and are far away from the bus or rail station. So how do we solve it? With today's advent of Uber and Lyft, we see what ride hailing can do, and so what you can do is pool people together, where you can pay for that kind of ride sharing program, where you're picked up, you're relatively close to your home, half to a quarter mile away, and then you're brought to the bus or rail station, sitting on the other end. And you're paying for your tag card, so it's integrated within the system. So you can truly leave your car at home, because there is no parking available at 80% of the rail stations, and when it is available, it's full by the time it's 6:30 in the morning, 7:30 in the morning. So that's gonna help with that particular problem, and I've run it by MTA as well as Sheila Fuel, and both of them are pretty favorable with it. There are a lot of other ideas. I would suggest you go to sheilairani.com and you find out. Thank you.
So I promised to be nice tonight. Chris Arnold told me to behave myself, but I want to make sure that we distinguish between what you've been promised in the past and what outsider candidates like myself are offering. When I ran in 2011, I sat with Tom Lavant, and he promised everybody like this: I'm going to protect your neighborhoods. When I watched the mayor's race, they promised, we're going to protect your neighborhoods. So why have 14 big developments been built since I ran in 2011? I've just been endorsed by the Daily News. My friend Taylor Davis and I have been dual endorsed. Outsider versus insider candidate. I want to remind you about a few things. One, we seem to be blaming cyclists. We're blaming subways for all this traffic. It's all this development. We just need to be honest about it. You need a candidate who's committed to scaling down this development. My vision for Hollywood is a little bit more like Pasadena, a little bit less like Manhattan. I'll remind you one last thing. It is pleasant about this as possible. If you listen to some of these candidates, you need to ask where the money is coming from. Sheila, I'm sorry to say that I'm not talking about you here. Sheila and I were on par. We're both at 82% donations from the district. I will tell you who's a community candidate. 83, hopefully some more.
I'm at 90, so
There's
there's
90.
You forgot that I've been getting money since then.
Can I please ask the question? I apologize.
Repeat the question
Oh,
again.
repeat the question, no problem. Time after time, city leaders and developers keep telling us not to worry about the traffic in Los Angeles because Los Angelinos will use public transportation or ride bikes. If you disagree with this, what is your solution?
Well, I'm running more to be our ombudsman than I am our city councilman because I don't like the city. The city does not love us. It's a gotcha situation. I can give you a dozen examples. If your car is towed and you go down to the office and pay them the money and want to get a release, they say, where's your driver's license and your registration? Well, we all have our driver's license registrations in the glove compartment out in some tow yard. Then they tell you to go out there and get it and then come back down here and then we'll give you a release. Then you can go out there without having a car to get there. I said, why don't you just check with DMV? They'll tell you the registration's current. You don't have to see it. But we're not set up to do that. Well, the cops are set up. They can find out in 10 seconds that your registration is current. I am a card carrying, this is the new tap card, by the way, with a pretty picture of Union Station on it. And when I go downtown, I take a 92 bus or 704 or the red line. I agree with the other speakers. You can't take your car away from your dead hands. People are going to drive and they're going to have multiple cars. I think we have to have the city respect us a little bit more. Other cities give you 50% discount on your parking tickets. We got to think about that if you pay them in 10 days.
Thank you.
Thank you. Same rotation?
No, we can start from the middle.
Okay, let's start from the middle with David. Should you win the election, what are your 3 priorities that you choose to implement? And how can you protect Hollywood?
Microphone.
Oh, sorry.
Well, this is a 2-part question. One of my main priorities after I get elected is for job development, creating good, high-paying jobs. But I can't do that until I do what the community wants me to do. And the 3 priorities the community's been asking for, from Sherman Oaks to Los Feliz to Miracle Mile, believe it or not, are all in unison. Development concerns, from McMansionizations to smaller developments to the big-scale developments, problem with infrastructure, from potholes, tree trimming, lack of tree trimming, lack of potholes being filled, lack of streets being repaved, and 3, access issues. Access to your council member, access to the city. You could call and it'll take 9 months, 10 months, 2 years for someone to come down to take address your problems. And how are we going to specifically protect Hollywood? First off, by upholding the law, by upholding specific plans, upholding what we already have in place, and not just saying that, but also enforcing it when it's not called. Ooh, did that.
Second.
Wow.
That same rotation,
Let's
right?
start with that.
A little bit about my education. I have a master's in business administration from UCLA. I won the entrepreneur award over there, and I also have a chancellor's scholar, bachelor's in economics as well as psychology at UCLA. So the number 1 priority I see for the city, and it's really the reason why I'm running, is the budget. We have a lot of great solutions, a lot of great candidates here, but there's really no money to spend on doing anything that we need to do until we finally look at the compensation schedule that we have for our employees, which is extremely generous, and I can say that because I was one of them. That these are things that you don't see anymore. Employees don't have to pay for their healthcare, and if they do, it's only 5%. We need to start looking at the market rate. The market rate for the private sector is closer to 30%. So those are things that we need to look at. The other thing that I'd like to see is a Hollywood Visitor Center. We're getting a lot of tourists these days. 43 million visited us last year, and it's been on the increase for 4 years. I would like a professional visitor center with a great film about all the things you can see in LA. We can have a number of vendors over there. We can have a shuttle, and we can have a platform to take a picture of the sign so people don't have to venture all the way to the top of the hills. Can I just tell you, my 3rd one is a bid in East Hollywood. How's that?
Tell me what it is and I'll tell them. Just kidding. 3 things. Let's first start with protecting Hollywood. The reason why there's so many developments is the city is addicted to cash. We're addicted to cash because they've given away the store between 2003 and 2007. While Justine and I, boring residents that we are, chipped away our mortgage every year between 2003 and 2007. This city gave away pay raises. Not that people didn't deserve them. Of course, people deserve to be paid a lot. The issue is we simply can't afford them. And so now we're in a bind. So my top priority would be fiscal responsibility. How would I do that? I need to stick out like a sore thumb. How would I do that? I'm the only candidate that's committed to cutting my salary in half. I happen to think $100,000 a year is a perfectly fine and fair salary for a city council person. And the Los Angeles Times agrees.
Wow. And Mike,
Oh,
please.
sorry, Mike. I think it's-
Thank you. What can we do to protect Hollywood? Well, I'm registered with Central Casting, and I appear at Criminal Minds Wednesday night, CBS once in a while. I'm interested in seeing that the industry prospers. And I think it's good for me as a councilman to spend a lot of time in Sacramento. We've got our governor kicking in a $100 million budget to help keep jobs here at home. And here at home, it means the state of California, but for filming, it means us, not San Francisco. So I think the best thing we can do is work within the state budget and go after all these other states and nations that are stealing our business. As far as the development, I'm in the favor of good business development. I think it's a crime the way they're beating up on Target. I think the city is negligent for not determining what concerns they had about Target back when they were going in the permit process. And for them to come in just before you're ready to open the store and say, oh, no, we can't let you do it, and it's been sitting there like a museum for the last year, I'm not happy with that. Priority is to get us 50% off on parking tickets if you pay them in a week, and I want you to have 1 hour street sweeping in front of your house, not 3 hours. They come in the first 30 minutes anyhow.
Three priorities. First, plan development. I will immediately reach out to Mitch O'Farrell, who represents the areas directly north of us, the hotbed of development, Sunset and Hollywood. And I will urge him to join me in creating a community plan that takes into account those streets and the impacted communities to the south and the north. Define that as a community. Do a community plan for that entire area that limits development, protects the neighborhoods, takes transit into account and infrastructure into account, and use that plan as a model of what real planning can be. And each of us bind ourselves to the plan and completely limit our ability to get exemptions and variances on the plan once the community and city council adopts it. If Mitch and I move forward on that plan, believe me, the idea will sweep Los Angeles. Second, business in this town is taxed as hobbled and coke wine. My apologies, I'll get on to the other stuff later.
So as we've been in this race, I've heard over and over again 3 things: development, traffic, and infrastructure. Those are the 3 main priorities. Now, of course, you have to fix the budget to deal with any of those things, so the budget then goes above all that. Hopefully we'll get questions on each one of these things. So I'll just pick development for this particular question. The issue is that we have general plans, we have specific plans, we have a framework 3.3.2, and we don't follow it. And the problem is that anytime you're a developer and you buy a piece of land, you come in with the expectation that you're going to get all your variances, you're going to get zone changes, you're going to get whatever you want. That has to stop. I have pledged that I am going to follow the general plan, the specific plan, or any other plan that's in place, and a framework which requires you to take into account infrastructure and traffic and schools and everything else that's necessary. The other thing that I pledged is that the minute that somebody comes to our office with any sort of development plan, you guys are going to know about it. It's going to go up on the website, and all of the community organizations are going to be notified immediately about it.
And there's how many questions in total?
No, just keep going, keep going.
Okay, perfect. It appears that, as you say, the big issues are traffic and development. So how would you propose to put a 2016 city and drop it into an infrastructure that's 1978? And we'll start with Thomas.
It's Tomas, but it's okay.
Tomas,
No, it's not, no
apologies, yeah.
I don't understand, I honestly, must not be right, I don't understand the question. How would you propose? I honestly don't.
Repeat the question.
How would you propose to put?
How would you propose to put a 2016 city, which seems to be where we're going with all this runaway development?
2016?
Yes.
A year from now, okay, go on.
Into an infrastructure that's 1978?
Well, yeah.
Actually, it's 1916.
I'm being kind, I'm being kind.
No, tell it like it is.
I'm being kind.
I gotta see you.
So 2016 has been used as a matter of fact. It's not a
Okay, yeah, restart.
It's a nice thing to leave me one.
I'm sorry,
So,
Tomas.
no, it's all right, that's all good. Well, but somebody you don't. You don't. This city is a third world city when it comes to its infrastructure. There are some streets in Cahuenga that are worse than the streets in the country lane in County Galway where I grew up. I wouldn't be surprised if I see a couple of sheep walking across one of these days. They're that bad. So we have to rebuild our infrastructure. There's no question about it. And sadly, City Hall has to come to you, the voter, and ask you to pay $2 to $3 billion to rebuild our streets. But it does present a unique opportunity. The only way we're gonna be able to convince you to do that is that we get our act together. And I think I bring that fresh, new approach to City Hall, which is no nonsense, which is almost impatient. And as the Los Feliz mentioned, when they wouldn't endorse me, they said, he's too idealistic. What a crime. So, we have to rebuild our infrastructure. It's a golden opportunity to rebuild it in a modern way with demo street lighting, with proper tree canopy, and with that, of course, street surfaces for rainwater collection. Going this way? Michael.
Well, the question might be, how do we upgrade our infrastructure from 1916 or whatever to 2000, and where does the money come from?
And support what we will have in the next 2 or 3 years. It's about supporting that.
About supporting all that. Well, you know, do we have to do it all ourselves as a city government? I think the infrastructure should have a 25% participation by the property owner, because it's going to make our properties worth so much more when we get rid of these crazy sidewalks and broken this and that. I have a novel idea that when our properties are worth more and producing higher property taxes, of which a good share goes to the county, because we all live in the county as well as the city, that the county ought to kick in a little bit of the money on a bond issue, or at least add their credibility to a bond issue, so we can get 2.5% interest instead of 3% interest, right? As a San Diego councilman, I've built the stadium and stuff down there with joint powers agreement between city and county government. I think if the LA Times and other media would chime in with us on this, we could get Mike Kontanovich and some of those people to see some merit, because they're going to get the return on it. We can't do it all by ourselves, and you know, we're making up for 100 lost years, okay?
Let me break the question into two parts dealing with infrastructure. The first is streets and traffic. I met with some remarkably intelligent traffic engineers when I began my campaign. And one of the main points they made to me is something I think Sheila Roddy has spoken on eloquently. And that is, we really have sufficient, I hope you're, I don't know if you agree with this or not, but your views on transit seem to fit this profile. We have sufficient infrastructure. We have a lot of streets, in case we haven't noticed it. We have a lot of freeways, in case we haven't noticed it. And we are building more subways, in case we haven't noticed it. But our use of that infrastructure remains 1978 at best. Sheila's ideas are one example of kind of creative thinking you can use. She wants to use the existing streets, the existing subways, the existing facilities, but introduce a novel element that she's advocating, which is, what is your phrase for it? Vancouver.
Demand response van pools are what they call it.
Small vans, relatively small vans that respond to individuals pooled together to use those resources. That can be a key to alleviating traffic problems in many places.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the first thing we have to do, if we're gonna recognize how we fix things, is realize how we got here. The fact of the matter is that the city, for many years, has played this giant shell game. That is, they've taken the money that was supposed to be used for our infrastructure, and they spent it on a 30% raise. City employees starting in 2007, 5% over 5 years, before it's up to almost 30%. We just couldn't afford to do that. And then what they do is they turn around and they say, well, if you want your street fixed, you need to raise your taxes. If you want your sidewalk fixed, you need to pay half of it. Well, I'm saying that we need to first say, no, we're not going to pay extra because you use our money for other things, okay, that it was supposed to be used for, and things we would not have voted for. Now, in order to fix these things, we may need to do a bond measure, but that bond needs to be paid out of the general fund, not by additional taxes. We have very low interest rates currently. We need to, if we can lock those in, that's going to be a benefit to the city. But we need to make sure that it's locked in terms of the budget, and it will not add to our tax rate in order to pay for it. Thank you.
There was a study that said to fix our most pressing pipes is $1 billion. To fix our streets and sidewalks, $5 billion. $6 billion just to come out to grade. Now, City of LA's budget is $8.1 billion. Let's not kid ourselves. The only way we're gonna, long-term solution-wise, to fix all these problems is we're gonna have to explore a bond measure. However, before we get there, that should be the absolute last resort, and we have to earn your trust on that. We need to first fix all the fraud and the abuse, all the inefficiencies that currently exist. And we talked about some of the people that just, the City of LA just redoing these things that makes absolute no sense. And we got to create funds. We got to lobby the Fed, we got to lobby the state, possibly create a fund where developers have to pay into a pool where they start fixing some of these infrastructure issues. And through developers meetings and whatnot. So we have to explore all options and root out all the abuse and the fraud so we can create that money and then eventually, if necessary, leave the law.
Thank you. I do think that we have to look at adopting a live within our means charter. I think that was recommended by the 2020 Commission, and I think it's something that we have to seriously look at. If we adopt it, then we can stop with the cost of living increases until we finally get our budget out. So that I think is critical. The things like the 50/50 sidewalk program, I think is something, but we also have to look at our gas tax. That's the way we pay for our roads. In the last 30 years, it's been in steady decline, mainly because we are now purchasing fuel-efficient vehicles. So we purchase less gallons of gas, therefore we pay less in taxes. So we've got to look at that and reformulate that. We either have to look at vehicle miles traveled, or we have to look at gas multiplied by the price of gas to see if that tax. That's very critical, and in fact, the state is looking at it currently, and they're looking at something adopted relatively quickly. I do think that we have to look at our developments, and instead of them imposing a cost on the community for things like crime, parking, shortages, etc., we've got to have them internalize those costs within the development themselves. So when they're looking for their budget, their user fees, etc., we've got to go back to them and say, you need to pay for the infrastructure development because you're going to be testing it too hard, putting too much of a strain on it. So those costs need to be adopted by the development organization.
Due to the rate of development in this area, which seems almost like it's happened overnight, what are your solutions to the traffic nightmare in Hollywood? And we'll start with Jay.
Well, as far, I mean, I talked a little bit about traffic already. A lot of the solutions that we've heard, everybody has very good ideas on this. As far as the telecommuting issue is concerned, yes, it's been around for a number of years, but we haven't taken advantage of it. So the city itself can lead on this particular issue. The city has people going to work every day in office buildings that they don't need to have there. I mean, we can outsource to the Philippines, we can outsource to Sherman Oaks. Okay, there's no reason we can't do that. Okay, we can, and the managers will just have to get over it, and they will have to figure out ways to make sure that their employees are working properly. As far as the other traffic nightmares that we have here, I think that we have to look at where the choke points are. We need to look at places where we need additional left turn arrows. We need to look at places on the highway where the traffic backs up continuously on the 101 every time starting around Melrose and going all the way to the 110. It's ridiculous, and for years and years and years it goes on and on and on, and we do nothing about it. When we just rebuild, okay, I'm going to talk about it the third time.
Short term and long term. Short term means every little bit counts. From van poles, light sinking, multiple, I don't know what they call it, four-way cross where pedestrians go all across at the same time. Street cleaning, making street cleaning happen in commercial corridors late at night when no one's there. And not just commercial corridors, all the way around. Every little bit counts. Bus cutaways, so that buses that are actually inside the street can still go forward. Long-term solution is development. It's all these projects. We have to look forward. It's not all these small fixes. Our city is growing. Our city is growing than any other city. So we got to look at the long term and make sure that these development projects have the extra parking, have the extra, the cutaways where it gives more gives more of the sidewalk to the streets. Has more, I can't think of the word right now, but it has all of these things where the long term solution is having proper development where it's community centric. For
development, the development should fit the character of the neighborhood, that's the goal. And then the next rule is it must fit the infrastructure capacity that's currently there. So if there's some availability, you take advantage of it. If there isn't, then it must absorb the costs of increasing that capacity, and it has to be absorbed by that development. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, across the United States, we have proven over and over and over, we are not building our way out of this transportation problem, the congestion problem, and the 405 is a prime example. After billions of dollars being spent in how many years, the traffic now costs you 1 minute longer to get from point A to point B. Okay, once you build it, then people will come. They'll be attracted to the availability, and then you fill it up again. So building is not going to be the answer. We've got to look at complete streets, which are integrating multimodal transportation options on one street. You've got the bike lanes, you've got the light rail or the bus, and you've got the automobile. We're too auto-centric in the city, and we've always put the auto front and center, and that's why so many people drive it. If we could create a safer environment for cyclists, we'd have more people cycling. The same thing with any other option. Thank you very much.
So a couple of things. My friend Carmen Price, council member on the south said, God, I'd love to have all that development you all have in Hollywood. We can legislate our way out of this severe development in the Hollywood corridor and move into more transit centers where they actually want the corridors far away from here. They actually need, they need the housing, they need the economic activity. If we are going to build, and I think we need to think, promising, we need to push back on it. We need to introduce an affordable housing component. Those are the very people who are going to use this mass transit developers claim occupants will use. Honestly, do you think people who live in Millennium are going to use mass transit? I guarantee you the parking garage is going to be filled with BMWs. My daughter, Erin O'Grady, we have a potential, I agree with Sheila here, for her to be the first generation to possibly consider not buying a car. She's 15. And you're right, Sheila, complete streets, free public transit until she's 21, which is what they do in Dublin, to encourage kids to use transit. We can have the first generation actually taking cars off the road.
Well, Tomas said a point, we have to encourage people to recognize public transit. I think I showed you my little card, that I am a card carrying member. Some cities have free transit. I was in Baltimore working on some projects, and they have free transit there. Maybe we should give a little tap card to every citizen with, give them $5 worth of freebies to try it out. Maybe you'll like it, Again, we get back to the deceit that our city has. I have my car, you can park in a yellow zone after 6 o'clock. That's one of the secrets. So I come over here by the Cat and Fiddle and I see a loading zone. And it's 6:30, so I park my car there. I go in and introduce myself and I come out at 7 o'clock and my car's being towed away. Well, there was a sign down at the end of the street that says, no parking on this street until after 6. After 6, no parking. Across the street were some parking meters, and they have what I call sub-signs, which are small signs that say, warning, there is an overall haul. Why don't they put those sub-signs on the yellow zone too, so I would have known that? I raised that issue in court. You know what the city did? They went across the street and took off the sub-signs. So now there are no sub-signs. The city does not love you, and until we get the city to care more about us, things are happening.
All right, let's see if we can do this in 60 seconds. 3 ideas going from quite simple to incredibly difficult. Quite simple ideas. How many of you are troubled by incessant Hollywood Boulevard closures creating spillover traffic? It has got to be limited. The good news for you is many businesses on Hollywood Boulevard are in sync with you. They don't like it either. We can cut that down dramatically. Second, buses. Sheila's idea is a terrific one. I would add to that the idea we need to lure professionals onto buses, moving from the San Fernando Valley to the city, by giving them a fabulous bus experience. A bus they can get on, spend 40 minutes on, have a seat that essentially is a workstation with full Wi-Fi equipment. I begin my workday 40 minutes early. My boss loves me, gives me a promotion, and I'm happy to pay an excellent fee for that service. And finally, the most difficult one I began. None of these things will work unless we get control of development, unless we have community plans that you have created and that bind your council members.
Oops. Thank you.
So much has been talked about so far with regards to our traffic and our development. And because we have so much fast-paced development here in Hollywood, what would you do to increase the communication between City Hall and our community here that will yield results? We'll start with Sheila.
Well, transparency is key to good government. Because you have elected us and you deserve to know whatever information you have so you can make a good decision. So the best way right now today, we're in a digital age. We've got newsletters that go out to the community. So that is one way. We've got websites so that you can access information. And we've all taken a transparency pledge that says that whatever development comes in, we're going to put on our website, let you know about it early so that you can calendar it and make sure that you participate in the process. The process has not been very kind, I feel, to the constituents. As a neighborhood council member, I see our plum committee. We're in the trenches, we understand the developments that are coming in and we're reviewing them. We have only an advisory capacity to the council office. And we can either be respected or not. It doesn't play much of a role, it doesn't affect the council in any way. I would pledge, because I see what's going on with neighborhood council, I will be actively engaged with all the neighborhood councils within this district. I want to know what the plum committees feel about the developments that are going on and actively participate with them in their decision making. And once again, keep everything above board and transparent as possible. My office will always be open.
You know, I heard this in the CD13 race, Mitchell Farrell did pledge transparency. And good luck with trying to work with him, why? Because he's building like hell over there with 13. So somebody should pick up the phone and let him know you're going to work with him and stop all this development. One of our proposals is to switch from a 20-person full-time staff to a 50% part-time staff and hire those staff from the community. There are many members here tonight. We're actually doing a lot of this community work for free already. By hiring people, part-time staff from the community, you're ensuring that staff members in city council offices are not there to adore or to placate or to defend the council person. They're there to defend our communities. The notion that some of you, if you're working for city council, would defend me before you can defend your communities is ridiculous. Building in checks and balances. On a more personal level, my children did not want me to run for office, and it is my life, because they think politics is slimy. They warned me, if I ever change and I'm not transparent the way that I promised them, they will tell everybody about all the personal things they want in behind the O'Brady household. The kind of pajamas I wear, all kinds of things like that. Even built in, check.
The question is how to increase the transparency, the communications between City Hall and Hollywood. You know, I think the city council once a year ought to come meet in Hollywood at an official meeting. Maybe have it at the Dolby Theater, maybe have somebody donate, refreshments, maybe a few hundred people there. But to have then all 15 council come out and hold a session. I was in San Diego, we used to go to different parts of the city and hold a meeting. There's a lot of things we can do to increase real communication, and I'll tell you, this whole branch office thing is a flop and fraud. I call the office over on Fountain, and I always get, no matter when I call, we're on the other line or we're out in the field. And my answer is, well, I'll be there in 30 minutes to talk to you if you don't get back to me. And I drive over there, and there's nobody home. There's two offices. One is locked up that has brains in it, and the other is just promotional material. I am so disappointed in the fact that the staff is always out in the field. I've been trying to get the staff to meet with me to discuss parking problems, and they just never return the calls. It's not working.
Yeah.
This is not to sound too Johnny, but in case it escaped anybody, the whole concept of doing real community plans is all about the most aggressive outreach possible. If you folks don't want to be worked to the bone, figuring out what your community should be like, please vote against me, because one of the things I will be doing is reaching out very aggressively, seeking input, needing input from the community. Second point, when I was in Sacramento, I had a wonderful staff. I had a reputation of having literally the finest staff of the assembly. And I did that by empowering the people I worked with, by giving them territory that they could make decisions in, and by making clear lines as to where decisions had to be brought back to me or the chief of staff. My staff loved working with me. I loved working with them. I want to build, again, the finest possible city council staff. A council member who tries to do everything will have time to do only one thing. This will sound familiar. Run from photo op to photo op. That's not communication. It's not communication. You need the finest staff possible to work with you closely.
Thank you.
There's a couple of things that, we've already talked about the transparency, and making sure that you guys know immediately when something is coming up, that many of us have pledged, and I'm definitely gonna make sure that that happens. The other thing is, I think that your councilman has office hours, and his office hours usually are when you guys report. Office hours need to be extended to evenings and weekends, so if you guys want to meet with a council member, you're gonna do, you don't have to take off work to do it. The same thing with city council. City council should meet sometimes at night, so you guys can go down there and talk about it and take off work. In terms of the neighborhood councils, I think that the neighborhood councils, when they have conditions that they have put in place in order to approve a project, those have to follow and they have to be enforced. If it's an MOU or something like that, but I will tell you that when I'm a council member, if there's a project and it comes with conditions from the neighborhood council, we're gonna follow that. And if there's some reason we can't do it, there's a problem with it, we're gonna go back to the neighborhood council and see if it will sign off on any changes.
Thank you.
I don't know if you remember how I started tonight. I said I'm running to change the conversation at City Hall. And that's done by first listening to you. The way to increase communication with Hollywood is to use exactly what already exists. It's not rocket science. It's listening to the systems that are already in place. The neighborhood council, the homeowners association. Look, I understand your frustrations because I am part of my own neighborhood council where I live. And we get very upset because no matter what we do, no matter what we plan on, it doesn't get listened to. It's like we do it, but we still do it for the motions to be on the record. A neighborhood council is only as good as if the council member listens to it. The councilman is willing to actually take input from it and work with the neighborhood council, and not just the neighborhood councils, but the homeowners association, the chambers of commerce, the different associations and different neighborhood forums, block, neighborhood watch, blocks, and talk with them to increase the dialogue. So I would increase dialogue by working with existing resources.
Thank you.
This is such a good discussion. I have one last question, and then we're going to open it. I have one last question, and then we will go to a 2-minute closing at the end. Is that the end?
No. The one last question, then open to the public, and then at the end closing.
Okay, perfect.
Can we get 2 minutes closing?
No, 1 minute closing.
1 minute.
Folks are so nice.
What I want to touch on, this is less of a question than your opinion. I want to talk about the minority population, low-cost housing, and the mitigation of generations of families out of Hollywood because of the gentrification and the development, and the new population not necessarily melding into what's already here. So how do we welcome the development, which I don't know how we did that, and still keep what we had, or what we had.
Protect the families. What do we start with?
Well, we're not New England where they pride themselves on the original fire company and the dressing up in costumes from the 1700s. I mean, we are the city of tomorrow, and we're the cutting edge. And we start there, eastward. So I don't know about keeping what we have other than maybe the sanity of our residential area and not mansionize it. I don't know how you do that when we're in a free market, where people have a right to sell their property for whatever. And, we have to trust common sense. We can't protect from our neighbor painting their house purple with green polka dots. I mean, things like that happen. I heard today on the radio, somebody had flags on their lawn with swastikas on them, and the neighbor didn't like it, but it's a matter of private property. If people are gonna be nuts in Hollywood, and a lot of them are, we're just gonna have to talk to them and pray, because we can't solve everything with legislation.
Thank you. We're going to go in the opposite direction.
I think you're talking about community. That's what we're talking about. It starts with the schools. We live in Silver Lake Los Schools. We have some of the best schools in the city. We boast about Franklin Elementary, King Middle School, Marshall High, Ivanhoe Elementary. And how do we do that? We as parents showed up to school. Going down Commonwealth, you see every day, everybody walking to school, everybody knows each other. I think of my daughter Erin at 15, when she's out for an ice cream on Hillhurst. I know that I can count on my parents who live in the neighborhood to tell me if something is going on or if she's hanging out with the wrong crowd. That's what community is all about, and it starts in schools. I'm the only candidate to have all of our children in public schools. I believe in participating in our community, not living in Los Angeles, and enjoying all the good things about it, and then rejecting the parts that might not be so elegant. Public schools are not that elegant, but by showing up, that's how we can build our community. I'm involved with Jeremiah Elementary, helping them reclaim a local public school. In fact, I'm involved in over 34 schools across the city together.
Sheila.
Some of the things that I've worked on in my lifetime is the creation of Larchmont Charter School. I was the head of the construction committee and then a room parent for 5 years. My daughter attended and then went on to Immaculate Heart Middle School and now is at Lustridge in Pasadena. She loves her science and her math, so I'm very happy with that. So I love the fact that I got involved in the creation of that school. It's no cost, it's a charter school. The things that I see with affordable housing, unfortunately, is we have building a whole lot of luxury housing. Now, I would bet, because I'm an economist, I would say that I think we've built too much. And I do feel that the rents are going to start coming down in about a year or so. I think we've overbuilt in that particular sector of the market. I do think that we as a city have got to say we are committed to keeping affordable housing in the city. We've got to look at our tax credits, low interest financing, the use of our land inventory for building affordable housing and commit to that. It's the same thing for homelessness. We've got to look at that. You're not going to solve it by just having services, because we have 600 service providers already. We've got to actually look at building up housing and bringing these services inside to take care of our homeless. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not going to repeat what was said, but I fully support affordable housing, and it is the council member and the city council who needs to take lead to build more affordable housing, workforce development housing, rents that actually people can pay. But more than that, I think you're also talking about disadvantaged communities like the homeless populations. The homeless issue did not happen overnight, and it's not going to be solved overnight. The city of LA needs to do whatever we can. For example, I am so excited what the Veterans Administration is doing. They have a very forward-thinking goal of ending veterans homelessness in 1 year. I'm all for that, but we need to partner with them to pave the way, open it up, make it easier, connect with all the homeless providers, homeless service providers with the Veterans Administration. So when we do identify homeless who are veterans, that we get them services, get them out of the streets, and put them in these permanent housing. That's how we're going to solve it. There's no easy silver bullet solution. It's about long-term thinking and sacrifices to be made.
So I want to talk about two things with regards to this. First of all, we have this law that was put in place, SB 1818, and it has not worked well, because what's happened is developers get bonuses for getting a little bit of affordable housing. But what they do is they tear down affordable housing in order to get those bonuses, so we end up with a net loss of affordable housing. And what we need to do is we need to change the law. We can do it in LA, we can do it at the state level, in order to get, if you're going to do that, you have to put back at least as much as was there before, and then something on top of that to get the bonus. I think that's really the only fair thing to do. The other thing is, we're allowing too much building on too small a piece of property. So what that does is, it raises the land value, and it raises the cost of homes. We see this in Sherman Oaks, we see it all around the city. If they can build a house that they can then sell for about $2 or $3 million, that's the only people who are going to be able to afford to live here. And because we're allowing them to build a house that's big enough that they can sell for $2 or $3 million.
Thank you.
Let me talk about an aspect of affordable housing that does not often get mentioned. And that is that there's a direct link between the single worst problem facing folks in the low-income section is that the price of their housing is escalating and escalating and escalating. We see it in our neighborhoods where middle-value homes are escalating and escalating and escalating, and even in the luxury market. With all due respect to Sheila, the prices still today are escalating and escalating. There's a relationship between that. What happens is this. Folks who find themselves priced out of the luxury market because the prices are just too high, even though they're high-income individuals, move down a step into what used to be the middle value market and bid those prices up and drive people with middle incomes down a step that they never intended to take into housing that is at a lower level than they ever anticipated taking, but they bid those prices up. There's a cascade down. Unless we construct enough housing at every level, we will not get out of this issue.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is, we have decided in this forum to open the mic to the members of the public. And this is a community, it's a very close forum. We want to open dialogue, to have the opportunity of our stakeholders and people from City 4 and City 13 to interact directly with you. So we're going to ask you to take a number and we'll show what number it is, because it's going to be random. Please, yes, people who want to ask a question, raise your hand. We're going to first ask the question. After you ask the question, we're going to give you a number, and the candidate who has that number is going to show. Is going to answer that question. Don't show. Yes, you have. Yes, to be fair with everybody. So please raise your hands. I see that you were the first one.
And they have 1 minute to answer?
1 minute to answer.
Okay. Sorry, that's my job today.
You can stand up here and
Talk so we can, it's easier for the,
Two quick show of hands questions, and then I'll ask one question. Number one is, I know this is a nonpartisan race, but I'd like to know which of you describe yourselves as left of center, liberal, or Democratic on the one hand, or conservative, right of center, or Republican on the other hand. How many of you describe yourselves as liberal, left of center, or Democrat?
Okay, sir, and we're going to.
Can we ask one person?
Let's let all of them answer.
so because it's a quick,
I did.
Yes, it's,
No, it's not nearly enough.
yeah, no, just a quick question, just a quick question, just a quick answer. You go ahead.
I am fiscally conservative and I am socially progressive.
I'm a proud Democrat.
I'm a registered Democrat.
I'm endorsed by the Daily News, which would be considered very conservative. I'm also endorsed by the Americans for Democratic Action, which would be considered the most liberal wing of the Democratic Party. I guess that will put me right in the center.
I'm a registered Democrat, and I was state right chair of the Democrats for Arnold Schwarzenegger in 2003. That's when he was for the people, before he had the problem.
Wow.
Second question, please. Sir, thank you. Come here, please, with your written questions, so it's easier for the
Social media. Hello, world. My name is David, the current planning commission president for Los Angeles, and a resident from right here in the neighborhood, former member of CHNC. And my question is, what do you love about Los Angeles? I've been exhausted after an hour and a half of feeding up our fabulous city I happen to love. And I'd love to hear, kind of like your children, what about you? What do you love about your city?
You can number please. The number is?
All right, CD4.
Number 4.
And I think that's me. Do I get to sing? We definitely do not want to hear that.
1 minute.
Okay, so what do look, I originally come from New Jersey, so, and I always wanted to live in Los Angeles and California. We came out here when I was a little kid. My dad was a school teacher, and we traveled around the country in the summers, and one year we came out to California, and ever since then, I've always wanted to live here. So there's a lot of things that I love about LA. I love the history here, I love the culture. Obviously, I love the weather. When it snowed too many times in April in New Jersey, I said, okay, I'm done. I'm really actually going out there this time. So I love the weather, I love the history, I love the architecture, and unfortunately, you're losing way too much of that. And that is, I used to do photographic study of then and now photographs, and I did this when I was in school in Ann Arbor. And I have a great love for what used to be there, and we've lost way too much of that, and we need to get that back. So that's what I love, and I also feel bad about what we've lost.
Thank you.
Can we all answer?
Next question, please. No, sorry. Please come here, come forward.
In front of the camera.
In front of the camera. I'd like to ask what your opinions are on the digital billboards that we're blighted with.
Take a number.
Whoops, sorry.
One just put that back. And your number is?
6.
Number 6.
What?
1 minute.
Oh, sorry.
Should be tightly regulated.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I do. I always have a mic. It's a joke among the candidates. I seem to repel microphones. It should be tightly regulated. There are a few places in Los Angeles, Sunset Strip comes to mind, portions of Hollywood Boulevard come to mind, where digital billboards can be part of the fun of the entire place and accentuate the benefit of the place. But outside those areas, I'm very, very much opposed.
Thank you. Thank you. Next question, please.
Please come. Who are you going to say there?
There's been a lot of talk about infrastructure problems, but there's one that we see every day having to do with our Department of Water and Power. And what are your thoughts on how this can be resolved? It's been ongoing for a very long time. And I'd really like to hear some creative responses.
Okay, let's see if we
Get it done.
One.
It is a travesty. It is an embarrassment what's happening right now. I mean, I don't know if you guys go to LA tonight, what's going on with the supposed open audit, where they won't even open up their books. It is embarrassing. Who is controlling who? I mean, and I want to give you an answer of what we can do, but you know what? You need 8 votes. You need the mayor to, I mean, even the mayor, the city attorney, and the controller can't get them to open up books for $40 million isn't even it's a little sliver of what we're trying to look at. So, you know, it starts with one person. Let's focus on what we can do now. It starts with one vote, one council member. And by the way, no one's gonna vote in this election. Project a 15%. In this room, maybe 3 of you guys are gonna, I know this room is higher propensity, but just for example, 3 of you guys are gonna vote. That's why we can't change it. But we start with one person, one vote, one elected, then it becomes 2, then it becomes 3, then it becomes 8, and that's when we start asking for big business.
Thank you. Next question.
First of all, thank you all for this is
You're all amazing, and I've been to a few of these debates, and I think we're really lucky to have this wonderful group of people. I'm on Hollywood Hills West, I'm youth chair. My husband's on the Plum Committee there, I attend Plum Committees there. The area going through massive development here is actually closer to where we live, so I also come to Hollywood United Neighborhood Council, and he's also on the Plum Committee there. We know about Stop the Millennium, we know about Safe Residential Hollywood, we know about Safe Sunset, we know about 3 lawsuits against the Hollywood Community Plan that was thrown out. So here's the deal. Do you really truly think you can stop this train wreck, which evidently was called smart growth by Villaraigosa and is not stopping? Or do you think there's a possibility of getting some kind of initiative or something on the ballot like Sid Yaroslavsky's Proposition U in the late 80s, which 7 out of 10 voted for to keep things low rise? Because I am involved in all of those communities as an activist, and people are getting massacred. They're fighting for their lives. Number 5.
Well, first, you have to put people in city council with that courage. And for those of you who don't know me or haven't heard of my reputation, I have plenty of it. I have very few friends in City Hall. In fact, I sued City Hall last year for trying to save the last remaining steel truss bridge in the city of Los Angeles and convert it into a park. The City Hall could not find its way out of a paper bag to figure out how to restore that bridge to use demo money that could be used to turn that bridge into a park, as an example. So it's about courage. I don't have any friends in City Hall. Secondly, yes, it's going to be very difficult to turn back the clock, very difficult. But as David said, somebody's got to try somewhere. When the Daily News gave me the endorsement, they were laughing, and they said, your Mr. Smith goes to Washington. That's what they said, but they gave me the endorsement anyways. So my word to you is, I'm going to keep my word. I'm going to push this back, because I don't want my daughter living in Hollywood and Los Feliz the way it looks like it's going to come in the next 15 years.
Next question, please.
Thank you all for coming tonight. I think it's a good bet that water and use of water, lack of water will be a huge issue in years to come. And I wonder what the role of the city council is with respect to that issue.
Oh my goodness.
Did I do that?
This is one of my favorite subjects outside of transportation. So I think we have to look at gray water. We've got to look at gray water on the home end for landscaping. Landscaping composes anywhere from 50 to 80% of your water bill. So you can do the shower thing and not brush your teeth with running water, but overall you've got to deal with your landscape. So we've got to look at gray water. We've got to be able to recycle that and use it for our landscapes. And we've got to get reclaimed purple pipes into all our parks and to our golf courses. We've got to look at permeable pavers along our sidewalks. They're already wrecked. Let's replace them with permeable pavers. Let's restock our aquifers. So what else can we do? We've got to look at our landscape. Why do we have green lawns in Southern California? That's kind of ridiculous. I pulled up my lawn 10 years ago. I've got rocks, I've got succulents, I've got a $50 water bill on a monthly basis with a very large pool and a 1/3 of an acre lot. So you can do it. It's about changing your mindset. And as a leader, I feel like I need to role model what I expect the constituents to take on to make sure that it is feasible. So that is something that I will do. Thank you.
Next question.
What is your position on the proposed closure of the bar and off?
Yeah.
Number 3.
All right, today, I was using the bar and off ramp, both north and south.
I'm sorry, stop it.
Like a cat.
There you go. No.
You know, we think that this is really just a city problem. The State Department of Transportation and Works has a lot of control over what happens with the design of the highways and the on-ramps and off-ramps. And the business community. I'm a big fan of the smokehouse over in Burbank, and they get an awful lot of their trade comes right down Barham Street, you know. I think we have to get the private business sector that is affected by this to squawk, as well as the citizens who enjoy it for their own pleasure. I think both the North and South are time savers, and I enjoy them. And I don't know what interest would be so important that they have to take that away from us. But I'm somebody that uses it a lot because I used to live in Toluca Lake, and I go to the valley quite often, and I love, as I say, the smokehouse. So you'll see me once a week on the barn, and I want to keep it.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so we finish the round and we're going to go to closing statement. Do we have, well, let's do it in the order that you have your numbers. Who has number 1?
Okay, 1, 2.
Do you want 2 minutes to close the statement?
One or two.
Let's do 2. You can have 2 minutes. Since you have
Sure.
2.
Okay, so
2 minutes.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Schaefer. My name is the first name on the ballot. Not only that, you know, election's March 3rd, and I happen to be number 33. But you know, I'm sorry David left. I wanted to answer this question about, and now that we have 2 minutes, why I love LA. Hands down, the weather. I love the weather, you know, I like it. It's a little hot, a little cold. I mean, my closet's pretty much summer clothes and fall clothes. If I go to the East Coast in the wintertime, I have nothing to wear. I mean, I don't know the concept of layering. I just love our weather. I love how the sun sets at 5, you know, right before it gets dark, where the whole sky turns orange. I mean, and you just sit out, there's a nice breeze, no matter how hot it is, there's a breeze. So I just love our weather. But going back to a little bit more seriousness, thank you guys so much for coming. Oh, yeah. And you know, I really implore you guys and urge you guys to do a little bit more research. I mean, you guys got a little sample of us. We try to answer these difficult questions in a minute. There's only so much that could be said. And honestly speaking, we all have access to Google. We have access to community members. We know exactly what the correct 1-minute answer is to get a response and applause from you guys. What to exactly say, what's the right thing to say. But that's why I urge you, and 80% of what most of us say is the same thing. It's just said in a different way. Which is why I implore you to go to our websites. Come talk to us after the forum. Call me on my phone, email me. To look between the lines, look at the details, and see what people are really about. And when you do, you will see that I actually have the experience, a proven track record, and the heart to work for you, to get things done. Wow. Thank you so much, and please vote.
Thank you very much once again for spending your time with us. I'm Sheila Urani, and what I would say is, let me just share with you some of the things that have been said about me. So it's a third-party objective. Daily News called me an impressive candidate with imposing intelligence. I was endorsed by Los Angeles Times mainly because of the policy initiatives that I'm willing to stick my neck out for. One of them being pension reform and employee compensation reform. That's the same reason why I was endorsed also by City Watch, Tomas O'Grady. And I've been mentioned in Huffington Post and had a glowing review over there. So there are a lot of papers that have come behind me. I'm a candidate that has not had a lot of money. I've not taken any union dollars, no developer dollars, no big ticket items at all. I haven't done a direct mail campaign because frankly I think it's a waste of money. What I've done is use digital, word of mouth, walk the streets, get to know you. And what I've gotten to know is that tomorrow's money has been spent on yesterday's bills, leaving us with nothing. And what we have to do together is we've got to get our voices heard. We've got to look at our budget and crack down on some of the things that I think we can work on together. And then take that money and work on our infrastructure. There are a lot of things that we can do before we start passing the buck and getting the taxpayer to cut the bill again. So I would love to work with you. I see myself as a strong, smart, successful woman. I'd love to take everything that I've got, bring it to City Hall, and make those elections happen. Thank you very much. I hope you'll vote for me on March 3rd.
Thank you.
An ounce of practice is worth tons of preaching. That's what Gandhi said. The slogan of our campaign is leading by example. So we just talked about a few things. Fiscal responsibility. How do you cut through all the rhetoric at City Hall? How do you ask a custodian to pay more towards his or her health care when you're making $180,000 a year? That's why I'm cutting my salary in half. Not because I'm wealthy, but because we live within our means, Justin and I. We're very proud of that. Sustainability. How do you talk about making this a more sustainable city? Saving water, more solar power, if you don't live it yourself. I live in a greenhouse. I designed and built it myself. A laundry water is a garden, solar power, solar hot water, and I'm going to tell you about my solar power jacuzzi. Schools. How do you preach about public education? Antonio Villaraigosa had no credibility because his children were in private school. Our children are in public school. I have a built-in self-interest to make your schools better. Finally, care for others. I lost the election in 2011. I did very well. I lost to a worthy opponent, Tom LeBlanc. Very honest politician. But I kept my word. I dedicated myself to public service since then. And I will continue to do that even if I don't win. I'm going to close with a quote from Steve Lopez of the LA Times when he wrote about my work. I've known the indefatigable, and I didn't even know that word existed. Already, since our kids went to preschool together. He's always been a guy who did the hard work while others were standing back complaining about politics and bureaucracy. My name is Tomas O'Grady, www.tomasogrady.com. I'm respectfully asking for your support on Tuesday. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Oh, it's 4. Sorry. Thank you so much for coming out tonight and spending the time with us and finding out about who we are a little bit, hearing a little bit about us. My name is Jay Bieber, and like Justin Bieber with all these, or David Bieber. I want to close with a story about why I'm running for city council. And it's just a microcosm of what's wrong with the city. On Christmas Eve, I was walking on Ventura Boulevard, going back to my car for shopping in the store there. And on my way back, I saw an enforcement officer come to give a ticket to somebody who was trying to come out of the store with some change and put money in the meter. They were racing to give this person a ticket before the person could put the money in. And the person said, well, wait, I'm about to put money in. And they said, I already started writing the ticket. Well, I knew that wasn't true because I was watching the whole time. So I knew that was a lie, number one. And number two, she said, well, it's Christmas Eve. Just let me put the money in. So she puts the money and goes back into the store. And the officer writes the ticket anyway. And the entire time she's writing the ticket, she's going, it's Christmas Eve. It's Christmas Eve. She's making fun of this person for having said that. This is the unconscionable thing that happens all the time because the city does not treat us like we're our valued customers. They treat us like we are human ATMs. They don't listen to us. And they really, to a large extent, when you bring this problem to them, they don't care. And what happened was, in this particular instance, I got the information off the ticket. I called up the head of the Parking Violations Bureau, who I happen to know because we're doing parking reform, and I told him about this, and he looked into it, and he canceled the ticket, which was a great thing to do. But I can't be out on the street all the time saving everybody from parking. We have to change the system. And the question you have to ask yourself is, who is going to change the system? Think about who has the temperament to do that, who has the drive to do that, who has the reason for doing it, being here tonight. I want to close, I see that you're getting the time, so I always want to close with one thing, because this may be the last time that we're all together. I want to congratulate all of my fellow candidates here and thank them very much for a very nicely run race and wish them all good luck. Not to win, but good luck.
Thank you, Jay. That was really great. We've talked a lot about issues. I want to spend a moment talking about who I am. I've represented this area for many years, but I'm not sure folks learned who I am. They knew my bills, they knew this, they knew that. The formative influence of my life was the Vietnam War. It was a formative influence of my entire generation. It shaped all of us. Some of us fought in the war. Some of us demonstrated in the streets against the war. And some of us, like myself, did both of those things. But regardless of our role in the war, we all went through it. And we all know the lesson of that war. It was a crushing experience to completely lose faith in your government. And I came out of that experience and swore that I was going to spend my life working on social and economic justice issues and work solidly to restore our faith that our government can be relied on. Well, that's one of the issues here tonight, over and over again. And it is the fundamental reason why I'm running. Yes, I'm interested in sidewalks. Yes, I'm interested in trees that create problems with the sidewalks. Yes, I'm interested in the budget. Yes, I'm interested in all those things. But fundamentally, what would be wonderful would be to have a sense that we have a city government that works with us. Mike, I guess, says it pretty well. Much of the time, we feel like the city is against us. It's time to reclaim our government. That's why I brought forward my development policies. That's how I would love to serve.
Thank you.
My time. Mr. V. Schaefer, don't forget the name. You know, if you knew nothing about me except, I may have forgotten as much about government as these guys have learned, because this is my 50th year of city council politics. I went out to Van Nuys and spoke on how to increase the voting population that goes to the polls. And when I was finished, City Council President Herb Wesson said, "Mike Schaefer, you are phenomenal." Well, I am phenomenal. I'm the reason David Rue is the first guy on the ballot, because I got rid of the alphabet as a way of listing candidates. I'm teaming up with Jay to make the city love us, because the city doesn't love us. And Thomas O'Grady is a very humble man. He was endorsed by the Los Angeles Times in 2001. And I'm very proud of that, and he would be too, but he didn't mention that. He favors, I guess, the conservative daily news out there. This is our very, very last event. And you could pick any one of us by drawing numbers as to who's going to be the city councilman. The city would be run, because you're going to have a vigilant press after them, and you're going to have us vigilant constituents after them too. I remember going to the toilet parades as a little kid. I remember being terrified when I came up from San Diego, Christmas shopping with my family, and I had to get on an escalator. I'd never seen that before. We didn't have escalators in the 1940s in San Diego. So, I go way back. I had a hotel in Catalina Island in the 60s with an office on Hollywood Boulevard where we sold tickets. Jim Newton, who's retiring as the Times editorial editor, thinks we need to cut the salary of the council by a third and cut the staff by a third. Nobody's talked about cutting the staff, and Tomas only talks about cutting his own salary by a third. That's only 1 out of 15. We got to cut everybody's salary by a third. And I bet if I put that on the ballot, it would pass overwhelmingly. So there's a lot of work to be done. And I have a great story about, as a councilman, how I rescued a lifeguard. You can ask me about that afterwards. Be safe with Schaefer.
We have food, and we want to have some time to get to know each other in a more personal way. After we take a picture of all of you, and first together, and then we celebrate together as a group.
Stand, sit.
Yeah, stand is okay.
You can get this, all of us. We're going to get a shot. Okay, ready? Yes, all together. Wait first. Yeah. Ready? Wally? Ready? Better don't be on the back, just be next to, yeah, Wally. Yeah, don't be on the back because you will be the only one that is on the back and that's not okay. And a little bit closer down. There you go, wait, let's take some of them. And now, if we go all together, that way we'll take a picture with everybody, please. Let's go everybody. Okay. Okay, ready? You're right over there. I mean, I can find out. Yeah, you can start. No, I find out. And then just go. All together, come on. Thank you for being with us, and remember to vote. March 3rd is the election. Your voice should count. It's up to you to elect the best candidates. Thank you very much. Gracias, muchas gracias por estar con nosotros. El 3 de marzo son las elecciones. Acuérdese de votar. Desde el Centro de Estudio Neighborhood Council, los saluda Milagros Lizarraga y todo nuestro equipo. Muchas gracias.